Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our very first Native Creatives Live. It's really nice to see you all in the actual flesh, having spent 2 years looking at many of your faces on screen. I'm really, really pleased to see you all, and I think this is going to be a really exciting event. So thank you very much for coming. I will introduce our speakers in a minute, but we also do have a very special guest this evening in Elaine, who is her very special birthday today. So happy birthday, Elaine! When I've done the normal Native Creatives online, I normally do quite a big intro into each speaker. I'm not going to do that today because I think it's really important that they speak for themselves and tell you about their backgrounds and what they've been doing. But I just wanted to say Native Creatives is about developing personal and professional practice for creative arts teachers. I am an art teacher, I'm an artist, I'm education program manager for Festival Bridge. I've got my fingers in lots of creative pies, and I know those pressures that you are all under as artist educators and trying to develop your creative practice as well. So thank you very, very much again and for being here. I'm going to start by introducing Michael Corley, who is the head of Festival Bridge, who is just going to here to welcome you to the room as well. So over to you as well.
Hello everybody, can you hear me okay online, hopefully? Great, thank you. It's such a delight to be able to welcome you all to the Guildhall this evening. The Guildhall is now the home of the Norfolk Norwich Festival, and it's a real pleasure to be surrounded by so many friends and colleagues. And it's great that we can still do this online as well. Native Creatives was born during the pandemic, during those first lockdowns, where we wanted to connect to those brilliant teachers that we work with around the region. So it's great that we're still able to use technology to be both online and with you all in person as well. You may know that the Festival Bridge programme is funded by the generous support of the Arts Council England and the Department for Education as well. And they've been doing that for coming up for 10 years now. So it's been a real pleasure for us at the festival to run this programme over those 10 years. We've been really proud to support many, many projects, activities and teachers around the region to do the great work that they do, connecting children and young people to great arts and culture. And some of you may know that the way that we're funded is changing over the next period of time. We'll be evolving our programmes in the months ahead to meet the new challenges and the new ways of working that we're all facing. So we're awaiting the decision of that funding, but we're pretty confident that there'll be something ahead so that we can continue to do that and evolve our programmes with you and to meet the shared ambitions that we have for children and young people in the region. As our future plans take shape, we'll be, as I say, changing the way that we've delivered Festival Bridge. And what we'll be doing is building in a lot of the great practice that we do elsewhere within Norfolk Norwich Festival. So many of you in the room are, I think, from Norwich and the surrounding areas, and you'll know the great festival programme that we deliver each year in May. We've got Daniel and the team are building a fantastic programme for the year ahead. And, excuse me. It's not COVID, it's a cold. I've tested this morning. And we've got a great programme coming up for the year ahead. And as you know, we do also run schools programmes alongside that. Ginny, who's with us here today, is running a series of programmes in the area, Lost and Found Films at the moment, and also our Artist at Our Place, Artist at My Place programme, which particularly works with schools in the Earlham area and looks to how we can engage artists in a co-creation project with the school and with the teachers, teaching staff and children. We also run a huge volunteering programme at the festival each year, and it's great to see one of our volunteers here this evening as well. And some of you also take part in the Norfolk Open Studios with your schools as well. So if these are any of interest in those schemes, do pick out some of the team that are at the back row there during the breaks, talk to them, say hello, find out a little bit more about those projects. One of the things I really want to flag today is our Common Ground project. We've been running a Heritage Lottery funded programme working with children and young people across the east of England, looking at how they engage in heritage sites, both the natural environment but also some of the built environment of museums. we've got a brilliant offer at the moment where we can bring our amazing Common Ground team into the school to work with you. If that seems even like vaguely interesting to you, please get in touch with Georgia, who's sitting in the middle there, and she will talk to you about what we can do. It's a really, really great offer that we can deliver over the next half term and into the turn of the year, so January and February time as well. So please do grab Georgia if that sounds of interest to you. As I say, we're going to be working through a period of a bit of change over the next 6 months, but we are still here. We are delivering the Bridge programme. Jen, Abby, and myself are really committed to delivering what we're set out to do within the Bridge programme. So keep talking to us, keep coming to us with your ideas, your energy, and those things that really can help you transform and develop your practice. So I'm really, really pleased to be here as part of Native Creatives Live. It's a fantastic programme that Jen's put her heart and soul into. So hopefully you'll enjoy and have as good a time as we think you are going to, and we'll continue to work with you into the next iterations of our programmes. So thank you very much. Enjoy this evening.
Thank you, Michael. So just to give you a quick rundown, we're going to have two fairly short talks from our expert guest speakers / artists. Then we're going to have some cheese and more wine and refreshments and a chance for you to talk to each other, to network, to think about what it means to be an artist educator and to kind of share your challenges and successes, or just have a catch up because you haven't seen each other for ages. And then we're going to come back and our two artists have co-created a creative activity to deliver to you guys, which is going to be in the form of visual art and dance. So there's going to be hopefully something for everyone. We are a room mainly full of art teachers because there's more of us in the country than any other art form. But I have just discovered we've got one dance teacher here who I've just had a lovely chat with. Where's our dance teacher, Kirsty? Hi, Kirsty. And then we'll come back, we'll do the creative activity, and then we're going to just do this open forum Q&A, which is going to give everybody an opportunity to talk about what it means to them to be an artist educator, and we'll do some sort of back and forth with questions to you guys and to myself and to Kenneth and Susan. So we hope you have a really nice time. Abby's waving at me.
Just to say, Jen, we are also joined online by people from Kenya, from Jersey. We've got some from Botchton Village College, some from Thetford. We've got quite a lot of attendees online, so just
Brilliant.
We're reaching out.
Thank you very much. And so hello to all those people online, and thank you very much for joining us as well. We are recording this, so if you do want to revisit it later on, then you absolutely can. Anyway, I will stop talking. Susan Coles, I met online 2 years ago. She did our very first Native Creatives event with Becky Misen, who's in the room too, which before it was even called Native Creatives. Susan has been a consultant on the programme for the last 2 years and has been a complete, amazing mentor and friend to me, and a brilliant friend to Festival Bridge and Norfolk Norwich Festival. So I'm going to hand over straight to her. Thank you very much, Susan.
The PowerPoint? Yeah. I think in pictures, so I have to talk in pictures.
Can I come down here so that I can
And
see
I'm
what
also
you're doing?
aware of the fact that there's a camera up there and there's people in the room, and it's really strange. And I've got wires hanging out of me, okay? So you don't really need to see me. Being on the short side, you can't see me anyway. So I want you to look at my images, and this is how I do any talk and presentation. And you know where that is. That is the Angel of the North. And at the bottom of that is me and some of my network in the Northeast, who have worked very closely with the network here in Norfolk, Norwich, over the last couple of years. And what I'm going to try and do in my 15 minutes of fame is just to kind of go on a little bit of a wander with you, okay? So when I talk about going on a wander, I would like to quote Tolkien, who says that not all those who wander are lost. So I'm going for a wander, and you are coming with me. Are you all happy to do that? And I want to make you think about things, and don't necessarily want you to have answers to things. So you will remember being little. Some of us are still little, right? But you remember this question that was asked a lot as you were growing up, which is, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's funny now, because I don't think you can ask a 5-year-old that question anymore, because kids are going to have micro careers. And because the world is changing rapidly, exponentially, so it's not that easy to do it. So have a little think yourself when you were asked maybe when you were 5 what you answered. Because my answer is a bit strange actually, because my answer started with, I actually wanted to be a nun. Mainly because they wore these really nice habits and they're quite stylish, and because I was in a Catholic family with lots of nuns around. But when I was 16, I just wanted to be a revolutionary militia in Cuba. So there's quite a leap there, isn't there? Because of things that happen in your life. So this is us sitting here in this room. You have to get a little bit of art history in. And I know that this is a topic that I talk about a lot, and some of you, I've talked to you about it, you know, but what is it that makes you what you are? What is it that drives you from those very first influences to things that have happened in your life? So the great art that we think of is Rodin and the thinker. But I also like to think about, thinking's very hard, isn't it? So a bit of Cat Colvitts, because it is hard to just sit and think. And because I thought we'd chuck in a little bit of art history as well, I thought I'd show you a piece of sculpture you've never seen before, which is about this high, found in the 1950s, 7,000 years ago. Somebody created this sculpture of a man and woman actually thinking, human cognition and introspection, right? You can see who's the man because he's thinking really hard, and apparently you can see who's the woman because she's got a fat bottom, right? But even in those days, you know, people are thinking. So I'm still wondering, I'm going back to when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, and I used to read these books. Does anybody remember Millie Molly Mandy? Oh, that's a relief. Millie Molly Mandy lived in a little village, and when you opened the front of the book, it was a map of the village. Millie Molly Mandy's best friend was called Susan, so I was bound to like the book. I even made friends with a girl called Janice, who I couldn't stand, because she had the full set of Millie Molly Mandy books in her bedroom. So I could go to her house, be friends, take a book home. So that was my beginning of knowing that I saw things in pictures. And I loved that little village, I loved it. And that began a journey which has never ended through life of comics. And it might sound a little bit strange because a lot of people nowadays, you can't really buy a comic. You know, the Beano is online and so on and so on. But I went through everything. I went from, you know, the Beano and the Dandy and the Beezer up to the Four Marys and the Judy and then the Jackie. People will remember that, where you had the photo stories and everything was in a picture. And that was kind of something really influential in my life. And I remember the first comic I ever had was called Harold Hare. I graduated up to American Supergirl and Superman comics, which my father told me I wasn't supposed to buy because they weren't very nice. I don't know why. So my mother used to say, you've got those magazines under your bed again, but it was only Supergirl. And then, of course, I'm from the Northeast, so I still buy Viz, right? So it's still there in my life. It's still really, really important. I love stories, I love pictures. So I'm getting a little bit older now. I remember sitting on the staircase, actually, because we used to have these things, young people, you won't know this, paper boys and paper girls. They used to put things through your letterbox. So I used to sit there waiting for the Harold Hare comic on a Wednesday morning to come through the letterbox. But you weren't allowed to read it till you came home from school. And, you know, every single character in it is really, really important. So anyway, I went to school. And I didn't like school very much. I went to a secondary school, which was a girls' grammar school. It was in quite a very old building with what they called a modern part. It was kind of grey walls, very what I would call severe spaces, very, very little on the walls. We didn't have an induction. You never went to the school to visit it before you went to the school. You just turned up one day in September, right? It's quite frightening if you think about it. And in the first week, I found it really intimidating. I didn't quite understand everything. I didn't know lots of people. And then on the middle of the week, I walked into the art room. And there is a little picture there, and there is a little lady in the middle of it, and she is called Sister Catherine. and Sister Catherine ruled the art room. And I walked into that room that day and I knew that was my safe place for basically the rest of my life. I can smell it, I can feel the old wooden tables, I could draw the whole room, every cupboard, every handle, everything in it. Because those moments in your life can change everything that you do forever. And that's something that you do in your classrooms as teachers, but you don't know you're doing it. And it wasn't enough for me. I'd go in there, I was like a sponge, I was soaking it all in, and it's still right there inside of me. So it's just a room, it's just a moment, but it changed my life. And I would go in after school and I would go in the holidays and help her to tidy up. And she was really inspirational. She had things around the room that we didn't have at home. We had books at home, but we didn't have art books. So she had an art library. She had a record player. She plays jazz records. She was an extraordinary woman. And then she gave me a book. And that book was called Pleasure from Pictures. Now, you can't see what's on the left-hand side of there, but it's extracts from my school reports. So I'll read them to you. Could do better. Must work harder. Not doing her best. Susan could do better. Satisfactory work, but far too silent in class. A fair result, which suggests that Susan has a lot more to contribute in class. Rather silent still. Susan is by no means careful enough about handing in her essays. That's the picture of my life in school. I don't have a voice, but somebody gave me a book and I turned the pages of that book and I went inside those paintings. And this has a particular story behind it some of you have heard, and if I get time tonight I'll tell you that, but it was Mindhart's Avenue at Middle Harness, and I could go into that picture. I could smell the smoke coming out of the building. I could walk through the mud. I could hear the cows in the fields. And it introduced me to art. So there I am, you know, I've got Cézanne, who's now at the Tate Modern this particular week, and I've got Van Gogh. There weren't any women, of course, as you can imagine, because they hadn't appeared at that point in time. But I love these books. And she gave me the books, and I've still got the books. I've got, you know, Flemish painters and Renaissance painters and Pleasure from Pictures. And honestly, it was the most extraordinary time. So here I am. I had no voice, right? I had no voice at all. So where did I find my voice? I found it through art. And quite frankly, I haven't shut up since, okay? But how did I become all of those things? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. I had no career path. I had no plan. There is one word consistent there on everything. Artist, 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 artist. And it doesn't matter that I'm not exhibiting in the Met Gallery or in the Tate Modern. If I can model something, if I can be part of the sketchbook circle, hands up if you've been in sketchbook circle, right? If we can do things like that, that's our art. If we can be as dancers, dancing around the kitchen or shouting out the scores on Strictly, we are still the dancers and the artists, and playing our guitar, we're still the musicians. So now, because I am wandering, as you know, I wasn't born in 1945, by the way. I'm putting that up for a reason. Because right now there is a war going on in Europe, which has been ignored during the National Royal Mournathon, right? And the war in Europe is worrying, but the war in Europe is similar to what we went through in the pandemic, right? We had massive disruption. We've just had 2 years of massive disruption. Please don't forget that a lot of people died from a rampant virus. And please don't forget that you couldn't get toilet rolls, pasta, and all of that stuff because people were being so self-absorbed, obsessed, and greedy. And the world changed, right? In 1945, we had death, disease, borders, countries torn apart, identities, people reinventing. We had people who were illegal immigrants going across from country to country. We had women doing things they'd never done before. They were allowed to drive buses and deliver milk and become ministers in the government, great people like Ellen Wilkinson, right? All these things going on. So there's a story here because At the end of the Second World War, right, just get these pictures up to make you remember it, those of you that do, but nobody in this room will. At the end, that's my dad. My dad was a young soldier who was very, very badly injured in the last few weeks of the Second World War. And he spent 2 years in hospital. And he was nursed by an Irish nurse who had come over during the war. And they fell in love. Isn't this a lovely story? And they got married. And they had 4 children, a son, a daughter, and the twins. That's for you, Becky, right? And all of those people have got something creative in their lives. My brother is a full-time artist. My sisters are in other kind of occupations, but they're very, very creative people. And it is only now that I realise the importance of those people. Because when my dad was recovering, my mother was his nurse, he did occupational therapy. He made ships out of wood. He sewed, he embroidered, he knitted, he crocheted, because that's what it was in those days and those times. So he was using his hands all the time, rehabilitation. And you don't realise until later in life what your parents have done for you. You really don't. And you know, the world we live in now is the world on the left. And I was more the world on the right, and actually I preferred it. There was a lot less anxiety, okay? We didn't have central heating anyway, so we're all right, you know. But my mother was always doing something with her hands. I never saw her sit and just watch the television. She was sewing, she was crocheting, she was knitting, she made our clothes. My dad had a shed outside, he'd be sewing wood, inventing things. Well, he had this craze for making things out of wrought iron, not sculptures, just things you would put your telephone on or whatever. And this was surrounding you. And I remember drawing with a green wax crayon on the wall in our house and getting wrong off one parent and getting praised by the other parent. So, you know, this is an early sort of thing. And Kenneth, you might remember Wooly, because you spent some time in Scotland growing up, didn't you?
Wooly.
Wooly is a character in a comic called The Sunday Post that you get in Scotland and we get in the North East because we're close to Scotland. And he is the original reflective practitioner. He starts the comic sitting on his bucket, thinking about what he's going to do, and he has an adventure, and at the end of it, he sits back on his bucket again, and he does all the things that Donald Schoen tells us a reflective practitioner should do, reflecting on what's happened and what's going to happen the next bits of your life. So my comics come back into it again, you know, so there is Wooly, and there it is, reflective practice. So bringing back to the comics, bringing back to Wooly, bringing back to where you are now, everybody in this room, you come here from, usually from work, and the biggest thing in your life is your work-life balance, isn't it? And getting it right, and how hard it is, and sometimes impossible. But those things are important, you know. You can have the best career in the world. If you haven't got your health, it's going to fall apart. If you don't have your friends and family, you've got no support around you. You've got to think, what are the important things? And the important thing is why you do what you do. Whether it was something when you were very small, whether it was a moment in your life, whether it was something you heard, something that you did with your hands, whether you were dancing or singing or whatever, those are the important things. And I know some people are familiar with this diagram because I have used it before in talks. This is called the iceberg principle, and above the iceberg, a lot of us, we have learnt behaviours, we behave in a certain way. But what is underneath that nobody can change is your integrity, your beliefs, your personal values, your honesty, sincerity, unwavering principles, being complete and authentic and living life by what it is and what is not acceptable to you, such as your morals and your ethics. Really important. Ofsted don't give a flying whatever for these. They just want to see systems in place. The human side of being a teacher and an artist is the most important thing. So you've got to stay true to yourself and your beliefs, whether you're an artist, a dancer, an actor, a musician, a bit of all of those. Be what you are. So, concluding now, all the important things. My mother had a sewing corner. She had a picture on the wall, Albrecht Dürer's hands. And some of you will know that during lockdown, I became a little bit obsessed with the whole idea of touch, right? And one of the reasons for that is I fell over and I broke my shoulder, and I broke it so badly that they came into the hospital and they said, you're going to have a life-changing operation. And I was in so much pain. If he'd said, chop it off, I would have said yes. And they took it out and put this, I've got a bionic shoulder. But I thought 3 days after the operation, I'd be drawing and sketching and doing things. No, you don't, you know. It took like 9 months of really serious rehabilitation to get my touch back, and how I missed it. You know, and I was doing sketchbook circles, so I was still ripping and collaging and taking photographs and trying to do it. But I think it's really important for us to think about that within the context of what we do, whether we're plucking the strings on an instrument, whether we're using our body to move around. That haptic sense is so important. And I'm always inspired, because I do quite a bit of work with the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, by Barbara Hepworth, and I'll probably end with this now, and I'm about 2 minutes over, apologies. Barbara Hepworth, we know her work, her lovely curves and shapes and the way that she forms these. And it was all because of something that happened to her as a child. She lived in the Yorkshire Dales, and this is a quote from her autobiography. All of my early memories are of forms and shapes and textures. I was moving through and over the West Riding landscape with my father in his car. The hills were sculptures, the roads were defined as the form. Above all, there was the sensation of moving physically over the contours of fullnesses and concavities, through hollows, over peaks, feeling, touching, seeing, through mind and hand and eye. The sensation has never left me. I, the sculptor, and the landscape. Barbara Hepworth. And isn't that amazing when you see that? So going back to our Woolly on his bucket and reflective practitioner, this is what I want you to think about tonight. What were your light bulb moments when you were growing up? Where was the room that you walked into, the place you went to, or the music that you heard? And here's a really good question to end our day. If you could have a conversation with your 18-year-old self, what would that be like right now, this moment in time? And as Millie Molly Mandy did her map, right? I do my map of my life inspired by everything that she did in her map. And that is the end of my talk. Slightly over.
So much. Thank you. Whenever Susan does a talk, it's always so kind of mind-blowing that I'm always slightly lost for words after that. But thank you. So inspirational, so motivational. I think that question about talking to ourselves might come back when we do the Q&A later. I think it might be quite nice to revisit. Thank you again, Susan. I'm going to go straight to our next expert guest speaker. We are so lucky to have the amazing dancer Kenneth Tharp joining us today. It has been just such a joy to be communicating with him, to looking at his work, to thinking about all the amazing things he's done. He's got an OBE, as a MBE for services to dance, a CBE, thank you. Huge career of amazing education and choreography and directing of dance. I'm not going to go into his whole thing, because when I was looking at it today, I was thinking that will take me the 15 minutes of his talk. But anyway, so thank you very much. We're so privileged to welcome Kenneth Tharp.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much. It's a real delight to be here, especially as we were planning this for some time, weren't we? And we got thwarted, and here we are. I'm just going to put my stopwatch on so I keep an eye on my time. I started dancing at the age of 5, and I kept going. I was living in Scotland at the time, actually. I started in Glasgow, actually, when I was wee. I was not born in Glasgow. I was born in Croydon, innit? But moved to Glasgow at the age of 9.5 weeks. So I started life with a Glaswegian accent. I was the only wee boy doing ballet. And then we moved to Cambridge when I was 7.5. And it took me 6 months to lose my Glaswegian accent. The last 2 words to go were we and who's. I spent 25 years as a dance artist. I was a performer, and then I moved into choreography and teaching and directing before eventually moving into administration and running a dance organization for 9 and a bit years. My first 2 weeks as a professional dancer were not actually on stage. They were in a school in Havant in Hampshire doing a 2-week dance residency, working with young people. And I suppose why that's significant is it means right at the start of my career I got the bug for teaching, but also, you know, I could see firsthand the transformative impact of the arts, in this case dance, on a young person. And you know, I would never pit academics against, you know, other stuff. But I think one of my observations is that I don't think that any young person can begin to discover the full range of qualities and attributes or discover themselves fully just sitting behind a desk. That's one of the reasons why I'm a school governor. I've been vice chair of a school governing body in South London for a while. And that's because of that early experience in my career. So throughout my career as a performer, I would talk frequently in schools, mainly secondary schools, but some primary, but also in top vocational dance schools and conservatoires. I even had a post as dance in residence at Queen's College, Cambridge for about 8 years, which was a brilliant place to be. Going into secondary schools, one of the things that happened time and time again was I would have teachers come up to me and they would, you know, before the first session, they would point out particular students as troublemakers, you know, ones to keep an eye on. And the interesting thing was that time and time again, it was those very same students, but by the end of the project, by the time they were on stage, they were streets ahead of the others, and on stage they were the ones that you couldn't take your eyes off for all the right reasons. It was somehow as though they had found themselves through the medium of movement and dance. On another occasion, I was working with a group of 12-year-old boys in Suffolk. And we met for 2 hours a week for 10 weeks, and we made a piece. And when it came to the day of the performance, something interesting happened. The teachers who, you know, should know those boys best sat, and I mean almost literally open-mouthed as they watched these young men perform. You know, the piece wasn't long, but their ownership was fantastic. And it was only at that stage of the project, on the final day, that I was told the whole group I'd been working with for those 10 weeks were underachievers. Now, reflecting on that, you know, at the time, but also since, I think there's a good news and bad news. I think the good news is that someone looked at that group of boys and thought, actually, this dance project would be good for them. But I think the really worrying thing for me is that they'd already been labelled underachievers, as though somehow less was expected of them. And that's a worry. And so what I've seen dance do, you know, is not only change and transform the individuals who take part, but actually transform the perceptions of them by the people around them. And I think that's important. In a second, I'm going to ask you to bring up my first slide. If you were to Google personal qualities not measured by testing, you might well come up with this list from Maria Montessori. It's the famous Italian educator. It is a list that includes a whole range of attributes, 23 in fact, and I don't know whether they're big enough for you to read, but they include things such as creativity, critical thinking, resilience, curiosity, endurance, reliability, civic mindedness, self-awareness, self-discipline, empathy, courage, resourcefulness, spontaneity, humour. Things that I would want for myself or anyone I cared about, things that I value, and like to think that some of you might value most, if not all of them too. Please hold that thought while I tell a parallel story. A group of 15-year-old boys are on stage in a school somewhere in Suffolk. They're performing a dance that they've been working on for 2 hours a week for 10 weeks with a professional dance artist. Most of the movement they've made up themselves. There is a pause of about 10 seconds between the two pieces of music. One dancer centre stage continues to move in silence before the music joins him, except it doesn't. Another 10 seconds goes by and he's still moving and there's still no music. A panicked choreographer sitting in the audience nearly stands up and stops the performance, but holds off because throughout the weeks of the rehearsal, the one thing they've said to the dancers is no matter what happens on stage, you keep going. Other boys have now entered the stage. Eventually, after an agonizing 30 seconds, the music starts. But by now, the music and dance are so out of sync that the choreography nearly stands up again and to stop the performance. But they stop themselves. Now, the dance continues. It soon reaches a certain point where each dancer has a phrase of 8 counts in which they move downstage towards the audience, one after the other, in what we call canon. And when it comes to the last boy, he completes his 8 counts, and then he goes on to improvise for at least another 20 seconds. And it's movement we've never seen before. You know, he ducks, and he dives, and he wiggles, and he jumps over another boy, and then eventually he ends up downstage left, in exactly the right spot on stage, on exactly the right note of music, and things are now back in sync. The dance soon reaches its conclusion, and whilst the boys are taking a standing ovation, the helpless choreographer in the audience is in cardiac arrest. Well, small bit of poetic license there. Now, there are 3 important things about that story. One is, it is true. 2, if all the boys hadn't all kept going, the piece would have certainly ground to a halt. And if that one boy had just obediently stuck to the script, things could have still ended very messily. Instead, he trusted his intuition in the moment and found an immediate creative response. It reminds me of the late Sir Ken Robinson, who I knew and was a patron of the organisation I ran, who might have remarked, he demonstrated that creativity is a great way of breaking the rules without ending up in detention. Returning to our list of personal attributes not measured by testing, oh, and by the way, the choreographer, it was me, in case you hadn't guessed. In which school lesson could a young student demonstrate so clearly at least half of those the things on that list within the space of 30 seconds? For me, that's exactly what that young man was doing in that moment. And that, for me, you know, whenever I think about the value of what we do as artists with young people, it's because we awaken things like that. That was no longer about me. That was about him in that moment, feeling powered to make a creative choice. And he saved the day. And I think when I think about the privilege of having been a professional dancer for the years that I did, it's because every day we practice what it means to be present, in the present, wholly there, bringing your whole self to it. I'm going to show you a short video. So, there are times clearly when we could all do with greater awareness, and things like mobile phones, whilst we all use them, they can have an impact. And maybe later on in the workshop, if I have time, I'll teach you maybe a very simple exercise about how you could teach the notion of peripheral vision to a 5-year-old, somebody who probably can't even say the word. Sometimes we can fail to notice the most obvious things around us. We risk becoming annoyance or even danger to those around us. And how ironic, in an age when we're constantly connected through technology, we're at risk of neglecting the connective power of this beautiful super instrument. Dancing develops not only self-awareness, but a wordless empathy with others, spatial and kinesthetic awareness, how to tune into someone right on the edge of your peripheral vision, how to walk with grace, with consciousness. The musician or singer learns to trust to play or sing, learns to play or sing, but most crucially, they learn the art of listening. They learn how to be part of a cohesive whole, whilst at the same time following their own musical line. Music, like dance, is movement, it's energy, it's vibration. The actor too learns not only the power and beauty of words and the command of their voice, but also the power of silence, of stillness, when even the smallest gesture or a turn of the head or the raising of an eyebrow can be enough to communicate everything that needs saying at that moment. We all too easily ignore the fact that we are embodied beings. And when we allow ourselves casually to use well-trod phrases such as mind over matter, we talk as though the body was somehow some untrustworthy distraction that needs taming by the intellect. We are both mind and matter, and what matters to me is the interplay between them as part of one single unified entity. Andrew Storr, in his book Music and the Mind, attests to the fact that movement stimulates creativity. You know, and if you wanted to drive a car, it would make no sense if you just to learn about the mechanics of the car and not how to drive it safely on the road. Or in biology, where you learn about the systems of a body, of how the body works, but not to walk properly or to have spatial and kinesthetic awareness. So I think if we want to help young people to tune in, if we help a young person to tune in, they'll begin to recognize through their own direct experience the innate intelligence that resides in every cell of their body. which is why I agree with the late Sir Robert Cohan, who was my guru, when he says dance education is an education for living. It's why I believe all schools should be STEAM schools. It's why I think no one should become prime minister without having danced. It's why I'm constantly reminded of the words of the Nigerian writer Ben Okri when he wrote, "We began before words and we will end beyond them." And it's why two of my favourite words are those from the English writer E.M. Forster in his novel Howard's End, "Only connect." So in preparing young people for their future, I think we'll have failed in our duty as educators unless we can harness the power of creativity to nurture in them the many skills and attributes that will in turn set every young person on course to realise their fullest human potential. So instead of testing young people to death, we should be helping them to connect. I think I want to maybe just say one of the privileges of being a dance artist for the years that I was also that I met the most amazing people. And I think this is an anonymous phrase, but whoever said it, I think, was very wise when they say that every contact leaves a trace. And one of the amazing things about dance experiences, look, there are plenty of books written about dance, but the art of dancing is something that is very human. That knowledge is passed on from person to person in the dance studio. And one remembers, not always, mostly with affection, but one remembers very clearly how that has been passed on to you. And it's very, very personal. And it just goes from generation to generation. And the nearest equivalent I could think of in everyday life is, with my Yoruba West Nigerian heritage, the West African griots, who embody, family histories, and they will sing it with the talking drum and with their voice. They carry that knowledge inside them. And I think I will end maybe just this part of the session with a quote from a book by Tom Robbins called Another Roadside Attraction. And the short quote is, "While strolling through her cactus gardens one warmish June morning, Amanda came upon an old Navajo man painting pictures in the sand. What is the function of the artist? Amanda demanded of the talented trespasser. The function of the artist, the Navajo answered, is to provide what life does not." Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Gosh, two fantastic talks this evening. Thank you so very much. We are now going to have some refreshments. You're probably really hungry if you've come straight from school. Please grab yourself another drink at that table. And then if you go back out into the foyer, there is cheese and biscuits. There's dairy-free, gluten-free options. There's grapes and there's chutney. Grab yourself a plate and do some networking or chatting with your friends. And then we will come back in here for the creative activity afterwards. So thank you very much again to our speakers, and go and have some food and drink.
Sorry, throwing my technology at you. Say that again? Yes.
You can bring your cheese and crackers.
That's what the Greeks and the Romans did.
Sitting close to the wine, that's a good idea. I wonder if online are back with us. Yeah, thank you for joining us all online. Helen, where is Helen? Helen! Sorry, we need you, Helen. I hope you've all had a good fill of cheese. Helen and I went to Marks and Spencer's this morning and spent a long time deliberating over those cheeses. So, yeah, so you're good. Good. The rest of NNF staff will be thrilled if there's some left for tomorrow. So we're going to go straight on to our first creative activity from Susan. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have you got the slides? Thank you. Yeah. Am I sticking to that, or I'm just sticking to?
I think, well, not really.
Okay, we'll just go for the 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Okay. Now you're going to watch a very, very short video. It will play. 42 seconds. click on the main image of, that's lovely. Just watch this for a few seconds. Now, just move forward. In 1973, the artist Rebecca Horn stuck pencils all over her head and she drew. And that became a really seminal piece of art, of performative art and drawing. Because what happened there is it is that moment in time that counts. The movement, the noise, the experience to the artist. So there are lots and lots of people out there within drawing and performance that use art. I'm only going to show you a couple of examples, and we're going to take a risk here tonight because I'm going to get you to do some performative art. Bearing in mind that there are some people in this room that have done whole performances with me at the Gerald Moore Gallery in London, right? So I'm not afraid of it, and using the same very limited introduction. So this is Gosaya, I can't pronounce the name, but I'll have a go, Volderazak. And he put himself in a box for 17 days. There was an exit for the toilet, by the way. And he was in a black box, and he did this amazing piece of work. There's another artist that I've had the pleasure of working with called Jordan Mackenzie, and Jordan locked himself in the Arnold Feeney Gallery in Bristol with white cubes, white boxes, white clothes, and spent a week in there making marks, noises. People come in, they carry out the drawings on their feet, all sorts of things start to happen. So the human body is incredible. You know, remember Leonardo's Vitruvius Man and the whole idea that, you know, you basically are a compass and you've got this center of you. And it's a lovely thing to think about. It's very related to lots of other things in music, in composition, in rhythm, in dancing, and in just kind of the patterns that we see in life and in nature. And the artist that is inspiring the workshop tonight is called Judith Ann Braun. Judith Ann Braun uses her hands, so I'm revisiting my obsession with touch, because it's really important. Now, she does not use stamp pads from W.H. Smith's, by the way, okay? She should, because it would be much quicker. Judith Ann Braun grinds pigment up from charcoal, etc. She makes all of her own things. And she does performative art. She does it live in a gallery, she does it sometimes with an audience, sometimes it's pictorial, sometimes it's just literally of the moment, sometimes it's in silence, sometimes it's to a soundtrack. So I'll show you a couple of pictures of Judith, and I love the way that these kind of happen. And it's inspired some of the work that I've done in workshops for the Big Draw. And this is Big Draw Month, everybody. So this all links in with it. And there she is in the middle of it. She's been quite ill in recent years and has found her art to be a real way of escaping the illness that she has. So you can see all the different things she does. And she's doing it all by dipping her fingers into something and making these marks. And there's something lovely about getting mucky. And kids nowadays are not getting mucky enough. You know, oh, I can't touch that piece of clay. Oh, I can't do that. Wiping your hands all the time. And we've had 2 years of wash your hands. Sing happy birthday. Do you remember all that? You know? And you know, people at home now, they're probably busy sanitising because they've got nothing else to do while they're watching this. But I do workshops and I just say to people, right, I'm going to give you a word in an envelope. And you will be in 5 groups, so we'll have to split up a little bit here tonight. I'm going to give you a word, and I'm going to give you about 25 minutes to come up with a piece of art that can be adhered to the walls. We've got paper clips here. Could be on the floor. Do not get anything on the carpet. You'll get killed if you do that. You could use the table space. You could make it something that is 3-dimensional, just as these teachers are doing. And you have to just basically illustrate your word. Now you can do it by having it as a freestanding piece of art and just talk about it for 2 minutes, or you can do something and then in the last 15 minutes of this workshop you might want to do your performance. So this will happen in different ways. You might want to use sound effects on your phone, you might want to use noises, you might want to use the human voice, but you will illustrate whatever is in your little envelope. And we have, even health and safety wise, given you wet wipes. So you don't walk out of here tonight being a danger to yourself and the public, right? And I love this because I never ever know what's going to happen. And we've got some really big bits of paper here with some masking tape. You can join them together. There is loads more paper down there. If anybody really desperately needed a roll of paper, we could manage to give you a roll of paper as well. So we need 5 groups, and I need the people to come up, 1 from each group, get the envelope. I need you to sit down. I need you to just work together on what you'd like to make or do, and then we're going to go for it. And the last 15 minutes, we're going to share and present. How's that? Can we do it? Yes. Da, 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 da. Okay. Just take one, Callum.
I like the blue one.
I knew you'd do that. 5 groups, please. All right, Helen? Yeah, okay. There you go. You'll be good at this. I have an envelope left, and people at home can do this. If you're watching this on the live stream, then get some kitchen towel, rip the tablecloths off your kitchen tables, and just do this, and you can get a word at random out of a dictionary. We are going to give each group a few minutes each to either do a performance or installation or whatever. I don't know if any group would like to volunteer, and if you want the cameras to point to you, you need to wave your arms so that they can do that. So who would like to go first? We'll go first. Oh, right, okay. Okay, we'll go first. So you want to all come round and have a look?
Right, Susan, your jobs.
This bit.
Which is to borrow. Right, okay. So I need you guys to be able to see me, because I'm going to be the conductor and you're going to be my orchestra. So all of you, yes. So basically there are just a few things I need to do. The first thing is it's going to be very small tapping on the table, like this. And then we're going to make some noise with our mouths. Then we're going to be clapping all the way through to back. So if you follow me, I will be doing the movements and letting you know while the piece of work is being created. Maybe you'll be able to guess our word at the end. I don't know. Okay, so you've each tabletop nearby, so if everyone's ready, we're going to start. growth or development? Well, it definitely does do that. It definitely has a peak. Yes. Good crescendo.
That's it's close.
Very good words, very close. It's a natural phenomenon.
Close.
Very close.
Tsunami, yes! Well done, group.
Thanks for your participation.
Thank
Very
you.
helpful.
And who would you like to be next? Hide your word. People, hide it. Hide your word. Okay. Right. You're entertained. Are we ready? That was great. I love that. Yeah.
Are we ready?
Did I guess the word?
Classroom.
That's it.
Was that it?
Anybody? Anybody? No? No, no.
Terminator?
Disruption?
Yes. Disrupt. Well done. Right, we've got 2 groups left. Right, do you want to come and see this group, folks? Oh, look at the washing line. Look at that.
Performance, it's more of a process. So we just started folding, and then we really quite enjoyed what was happening, and we're using the inks and turning them into sponges and the pencils and following a space and a shape and a line that seemed to evolve from that process, and then they were then demonstrated on a line. So it was quite a sort of haptic, sensual, lovely process actually, after kind of, using our hands. It was wonderful.
And they're all very, very different, aren't they? That one looks like little matchsticks, doesn't it, in a box. And you did look actually very engaged in the folding and the creasing and the...
Yeah.
Do you like doing the ironing?
No. I don't even know what that is.
You're missing a trick here. I just thought that was really lovely. Yeah. But do you know what their word is?
There's 3 words.
Oh, this could be hard.
Oh, close.
Clever. Johnny Cash. Draw the line. And that's what they've done. Drawn the line. That's brilliant. And we've got our final one over here. If you want to take any pictures of anything, now's the chance, because we're going to clear the tables in about 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is also a participatory one. If you would like to participate, please come and stand this side of the paper. If you would like to observe, stay where you are. Okay, fair enough. I will be pointing at you then.
good. What a wonderful mix there. Don't get any on the carpet, I'll get the sack. Please, wipe the carpet. Now, what a guess. That's beautiful. Can we guess the word? Wasn't that elegant? What was the word?
What? Amazing. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Undulate?
Or close.
Wave.
Getting there.
Wavy. Very good.
Thank you. Flow.
Flo? That's fantastic.
And something from mine, love the sound and movement. Flow ? From Kenya.
Oh, wow. How's that? That's brilliant. Now this comes the difficult bit because we're not finished yet. We have got to tidy up and hang on. Jen will tell us where to put the bits of paper. If you want to quickly take pictures, you're going to have to do it now.
Take the pictures.
Yeah.
We will try and find somewhere to hang these. We can't stick anything to the wall.
Don't worry about it.
But we will do that. But what we have to do is, if you wouldn't mind, just picking up your chair and folding it and putting it to this side of the room. We will then move the tables to the other end of the room.
So your own possessions need to be moved to the side as well. But well done, because that was a risk and we did it.
Hands up if you think you know what we're doing. Hands up if you've no idea what we're doing. So there's a lot of non-committal people who are not confident they know what we're doing, but neither do they think they're not, but they might have an idea. Those people that put their hand up and say they think you know what we're doing, what are we doing? What is that? What is that?
You move forward.
It's a what? It's a child's game. Okay.
But if you're seen, then catching you out.
Okay. And for someone who doesn't know, what are the rules?
You can't be seen moving.
You have to try and get up to the person who's it, and if they see you moving, you either out.
Okay. Okay. Everyone clear about the game? Is there anyone who didn't know that game prior to this exercise? Is there anyone who's never played that before? Okay, so there's a familiarity. Just to do what we've done, did I give you any verbal instructions?
No, not at all. You didn't open your mouth.
Okay, just note that. In that point, was there a moment, put your hand up if there was a moment from when I sent you down that way, when you were going, of uncertainty. Did you experience uncertainty? Put your hand up if you experienced uncertainty about what was going to happen next.
Oh, what was happening next?
Okay, yeah, quite a few of you. Did that uncertainty make you feel, how did that uncertainty make you feel? You don't have to tell me, just be aware of it. You don't have to tell me, just monitor. When you're in that uncertain place, are you comfortable with it? Is it familiar? Is it scary? Is it, oh God, I wish you'd just, tell us what to do. Okay, right, I'm going to divide you into two groups. Can this half of people, you go back there, and can the other people, you can move to either side, it doesn't matter, either side of the room and just be observers. Now, you're going to do the game again. The people who, it doesn't seem to be a very even group. We've even got more people watching than doing. So can we be like half and half? Okay, and could you come into the doers, please, Elaine, birthday girl? So we're going to swap in a minute. Okay, this time you're going to do exactly the same thing, but you're going to choose somewhere to place your hands. Wherever you want, you're just going to choose somewhere on your body or in the air to place your hands, but you're going to do the same thing. And those people aside, just clear the space. Just choose somewhere to place them and keep them there. Yes, you don't keep moving. Yeah, and people watching, I just want you to watch. I just want you to observe. Oh, who wants to replace me? Could you replace me? Thank you. And go. Okay. Pause.
That's brilliant. That's so fun.
What do you observe in the people who are doing watches? What do you learn about the person when you're watching them? Okay, that's a very valid judgment, but you know. Yeah.
It's like trying really hard to.
You can see that they're trying. Is it clear what they're trying to do? Okay. Is it clear how people are choosing possibly different strategies to achieve their end? Is it clear people's different emotional reactions to being sent back? Okay. Hold those thoughts. Let's swap. Watchers watch, the others do.
The difference from when you did it is that we now know what we're doing. When you started it, we didn't.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it's more
People who are about to do now, you're going to do the same thing, except you're going to link arms with a partner. So if one of you if one of you gets sent back, you both get sent back. Go. Someone here? Oh, I think let's go that again. Let's go again.
You could say that was really Mission Impossible.
Let's go one more time. Be warned. Here we go. Well, the music's going to run out soon. Okay, rest. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let me ask you. Did anyone... Okay, let me ask something. Did you watch... When you wanted to understand someone, which bit of their body were you watching? Which bit told you the most about the person and their attitude to this? The face. Yeah. I mean, you know, the steely look, the I'm going to get there if it kills me and my partner, dramatic strategy there. The daring run right down the room almost took him out before he'd had a chance to get in place. Look, the point is, we're absolute experts at reading intention. We've spent 10 minutes playing with okay, I've been asking you questions, but the fundamental thing, we've not needed words to sort of do the thing and to understand what's going on and to participate in it. The other interesting thing is, if you think about what is performance, if you think about performing arts, music, drama, dance, what is performance? How would you define any kind of performance? A physical communication. A physical communication. And would that include just someone speaking words? Yeah. I've thought about this, and there isn't a right or wrong answer, but when I've thought about how this game relates to what I did as a professional dancer, I think the things I remember about being on stage in front of an audience were that sort of adrenaline rush, that heightened sense of awareness. And I could see that coming off you like electricity, it's like, that sense of, but also something else combined with that, which I would call, well, it's intention, isn't it? But in this case, it's really animated intention. That sense of, I'm going there, I'm determined to get there, and then obviously the deflation or something when it doesn't work. It's all animated, it's all red, and I think as human beings, we're experts at understanding the human body and the communication. And yet sometimes we rely very much on words, and words can be powerful, and they can be beautiful, and they can be brilliant, they can be ruthless, they can be brutal, they can be all sorts of things. But sometimes just remember the power of this whole thing to communicate and to say things without, just as it is, without any extras. I would like you just to find, thank you very much for that, and for your spirit of openness and your willingness just to enter into it and do it is wonderful. Please just find anywhere in the room, find your own space. And I suppose there's one other element that I think maybe is key to performance, which is at least a good performance, which is bringing your whole self to it. There was a choreographer I worked with at the very start of my career called Janet Smith. She had her own company, and then she later went on to run Scottish Dance Theatre, and she also was director of the Northern School of Contemporary Dance for some years. I remember her doing a workshop with some dancers, and she said, some of you look like you've left part of yourself at home in a drawer. I actually want you to have the courage to bring everything into this room. And that can be interesting, can't it? Because sometimes, we're expected to leave all our personal problems at the studio door and not bring that baggage in. And yet, other times, choreographers want us to be totally authentic, human beings. And so sometimes there are contradictions there, aren't there, in what we expect and demand of people. By the way, one thing I forgot to tell you in that story, Kirsty and I found out when we were just chatting in the break, that the story I told you about the boys where the music stopped, that was actually, they were boys at her school, and which was called Upper Corner, is that right?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, great Upper Corner, yeah. So that was the interesting, but the thing I forgot to tell you about the story was, one bit's particularly relevant. The first is not so, but I will share it with you. That particular boy, apparently he came from a broken home, so much so that I think he and his twin sister had actually legally, I don't know what the term for it is, the word, but had legally sort of separated from their parents. So he had a very challenging life. The second thing is I knew he wanted to join, this is the most relevant, but he wanted to join the army. And I remember reflecting after and thinking, well, if I was going to be, a soldier led into hostile conditions, which kind of person would I want leading me? The person who, faced with unexpected, challenge, is flicking through the manual, desperately finding the page that says, what to do in the event of X and can't find it, or the person who just trusts their instincts and maybe without words just goes and everyone follows. I know which person I'd feel safer with. So there's something, isn't there, about trusting, and sometimes the intellect can get in the way, and sometimes our body knows. You talk about firemen who I've seen this person speak. There was a fireman who, in a particular situation, everything logically was saying this is safe, but something in his subconscious went, I need to get the men out. And he got them out, and just after that happened, a big fireball. He knew some wisdom, stuff that he'd processed in his brain that was there as knowledge. He just kind of trusted his instinct. He knew. Blah. Right. In your own space, look, there's a big gaping hole here. Please just find a space so you've got enough space. You can be facing any direction. You don't have to face me. And I would just like you for a minute, just gently close your eyes. And as you do that, I just want you to think about the first letter of your first name. And I just want you to see it in your mind's eye. And then I want you to imagine yourself picking up a paintbrush or a pencil or a pen or whatever your preferred instrument is. Imagine yourself just picking that up without doing it yet. But imagine yourself picking that up and making that mark in the space, in the air, in front of you. And now, still with your eyes closed, I want you to, whichever hand you draw with, I want you to actually make it in the space, the first letter of your name. Slightly different approach to Susan in the sense that Susan gave you an idea and then gave you 30 minutes to do it. generally with my experience of working with dancers, even professional dancers, but especially non, is I tend to do it in bite-sized chunks. And it's about, but very quickly you can get to a place where you've developed an idea into something quite sophisticated, even in an hour. We haven't got an hour, we've got 40 minutes. So you've got less than that now, of course, because of all the stuff we've done. So I will work quickly, but it's just remember that we're starting from something very simple. Okay, now I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to play with your first name and think about how you write your signature. I'm very conscious, and of course if I do it facing you, you'll get the mirror version, but I know that when I write my signature, I have a bold downstroke for the K, and then I go like that. Actually, there's a little curve on the bottom of that, but it's not a straight line, that one, so it's like sometimes. That's how I start. So I just want you to think, and maybe just play with the first letter to begin with, and when you feel you've got that, you could explore maybe. You can either do two things. If you feel really confident, I mean, some people, it depends how you write your signature. If it's really detailed, you might just want to do the first two, possibly three letters. But, you know, some people, it might be a big gesture, and then boom, bap, you know, whatever it is, I just want you to find that. So if you feel like playing with the whole of your first name, if it's not hugely long, you know, Anastasia or something might take a bit longer, but, you know, whatever. Just play with that, or just play with the first three letters. Just find that, and find out what the rhythm is, find out what the sound is, make your mark in space, and there's still a big unused space here, so please spread out, use the space. Don't cramp each other's style. Yeah, some of you hiding against the wall, do come out. And you can play, again, with the things, we can play with speed, you can play with the height, you can play with the size. And as you work on this, I want you to be very specific so that you could repeat it exactly the same several times in a row. You know, because your signature can't be, it has to be consistent, doesn't it? Otherwise you get, you know, you don't sign that check, not people that write checks anymore, but it needs to be consistent. So I'd rather you only did the first bit and be really consistent than do the whole thing and be inconsistent. Where is there most energy in your signature? Bye, Lane, and happy birthday. Where is the most energy? Is it at the beginning? Is it in the middle? Is it at the end? Is it very even? Have this think about the highs and lows of it, and maybe exaggerate that a little bit. If you've got something that's strong, make it a little bit stronger with your vocalization. I'm going to give you just one more minute, just to feel comfortable with the beginning of your signature. And the sound you make, as well as just the sound of your action through the air, may also say something about the feeling of your name, or the character of your name, or how you want to be perceived. Okay, and rest. Good. So let's just work without needing to move where we are. Let's just all these people this side of my arms. Let's just have a look at yours all together. Yeah. Maybe just do it 3 times. Yeah. And then when you finish, start in stillness and end in stillness. Yeah. Ready? Go. I want to hear that sound. Start in stillness and end in stillness. Okay, rest. This group. Take the space. Don't be afraid to make the sound. Ready? Go. Start in stillness and end in stillness. Rest. Good. Look, one of the things, I would say this to professional dancers, one of the things that really makes a difference to clarity, people find it really difficult just to be still. You know, you ask them to start something and they're still moving, they'll start a movement and you haven't had even a second of stillness. Just for the clarity of statement, just to be neutral and still, so that whatever you do next, it reads, yeah? And just to complete that, whenever, you know, to complete it and just to be able to hold it and then go back and start again. You know, that kind of is the kind of simple clarity we want. Great. Please find yourself a partner. And if we're uneven, we can have a 3. Great. Fantastic. Now, this is where the consistency comes in. I want you to teach each other your first letter. Your first letter, so that you can do it in unison. Okay, you should be nearly there. Yep. One more minute. Can I just pause for a second? Okay, just listen for 1 second. I'm hoping that you're nearly there with we've only asked for 2 letters. Use the sound to help teach it. Don't just explain. You don't need all those words. Use the sound, you know, demonstrate. That's much easier for someone to latch onto, you know. And if they've not quite got the gesture right, at least they've got the energy of it right, yeah? Yeah, so use the sound to teach it. Yeah. I'll give you 2 more minutes, yeah, but really, be bold. How are we doing? Yeah? It looks like we're getting there. Okay. Let's just have a quick look. We'll go around the room. Let's start with you two. Ready?
Okay. So we do.
Yes, you do one, and then you do the other.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I note you're using different hands on that last one. Okay, let's go. These two. Yep, ready? And go. I'm not hearing the sound.
Well, we did it exactly at the end. We'll do that again.
Are we doing yours or mine? Okay.
Yep.
Finish it, yes? Wait. Did you see what happened at the end? Because they went boom, boom. Was that part of it? Is that how your signature finishes? What's the last gesture? Where does your signature finish? Okay, that's where your signature finishes. Yeah? I mean, that movement of the pen on the, or whatever, you know, boom, that is a fantastic gesture to finish. Yeah, you Susan and Mark. Okay, good, excellent. Excellent. Go. Yes. Oh, have you not finished? Okay, so try and join them so there isn't such a pregnant pause in between. I remember when I was working with some dancers at the Royal Ballet School and I asked them to do the same exercise just with their torso, with their eyes closed. They never closed their eyes. They're always using a mirror as a reference point. And so just closing their eyes was already, you could feel the nervousness. And then being asked to do it with their torso, once they got over the initial surprise, it was amazing. And I remember showing just a short video clip to the assistant director of the school afterwards, and he saw one boy, and the way he was just moving that body, he said, I've never seen him move with that freedom. You know, and it sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but you know, don't lose the joy of it. I mean, because if you're doing this with kids, I mean, kids just, they you know, if they don't do it, they won't do it. But I mean, you know, and we're so busy judging ourselves, aren't we? Trying to, or worrying whether we're judging ourselves, and often we're more ruthless than anyone else is. So actually, you know, just enjoy the exploration. You know, put that judgment away. It's lethal, it's ruthless, and it stops us experiencing the fullness of that. Okay, I would like you just, I mean, we're going to have to go incredibly quickly, but I'd like you to each do the same in your groups, is that you're going to repeat each one twice. So the first time, as you've done it, the second time, use different parts of your body. And on this, so you can be different individuals at that point. And then the third time, you go back to being in unison. But on this third time that you do it, I want you to use any of the tools at your disposal to make it different to the first time. It could be size, it could be speed, fast or slow. It could be fast and slow. You know, some people have a slow bit and then they have a quick bit at the end. But I want you to make that, you know, you can use those kind of dynamics. You could even think about your letter moving from one plane to tipping it. What happens if you tip it and you're drawing your letters horizontally or at an angle? Yeah, so first you're doing 3 times. Your 2 letters, first time, then using different body parts individually, and then coordinating on your last one, again in unison, making some dynamic choice about size, level, dynamic, whatever you want. Yeah, so you keep our interest. Yeah? I'll give you a few minutes just to play with that. May I make one very small observation about the first time you do it, which is there's something slightly disembodied. It's as though you're looking at, it's as though the drawing's happening over there somewhere, but I'm just going to look straight forward regardless. There's something about tracking it that I think would make it, more present. Yeah, as though it's not happening to you, but you are consciously making those marks in the space. Makes such a difference, it really does. Yeah, yeah.
It's going to have to be notes. If in doubt.
you know what time I started? I think it was yeah. I think it was about 10 to. So yeah, I'm thinking I've got 5 minutes left, or 10 maybe maximum. I was just about to say dancers. Well, you are, but you are. So I will. I was about to, so I will say dancers. Just use the next minute just to do a rehearsal. Look, look. There's no point in getting performance nerves over something because we're going to be gone in 5 minutes. So I mean, just enjoy it. But just to have that sense of being able to go through it. Just go through it. We start, we go through it, warts and all, we finish. Yeah. So just on your own, just go through it once now, and then we'll share. Okay, rest. Okay, rest, folks. Rest. Sorry, listen, because we've got very short time left, and I think we just want, you've done all the hard work. We just want to play a little bit. So I think we're going to do a few what happens if ... So what happens if we're the audience here, and we work our way down the line. We have 2 couples at a time. So choose a space on stage, and when you've finished, hold your last movement. It's 2 couples at a time. So choose your space and think about where you want to be. If this is a blank canvas, where do you want to be in relation to the other couple? Do you want to be right next to them? Do you want to be on a different level? You want to be seen? Think about the statement that is being made on the stage. Yeah, okay, we want to be boring and in a line because it's so predictable. Okay. But you've got to be in unison. But whatever angle you start, you're in unison. Yeah? Okay. Listen to the rules of the game, please, quickly, folks. Don't worry about rehearsing now. They're going to go. They're going to start in stillness. They're going to end in stillness. When you've finished, clear the space. You can go which direction you want. Next 4 come on. When they've finished, next 4 come on. When they've finished, next 4 come on. Yeah. But please hold the stillness for a moment before you break that spell. Yeah. So we see the end clearly, like a frozen. next group, go. Next group, go. There should be 2 pairs in the space. Yeah. And listen, just when you come to space, please just be aware. I want you, I don't think you're using the full range of your thoughtful creativity, which is where you position yourself in the space in relation to the other couple makes a statement. If you were on a paper, you can put 2 dots like that. That's one statement. You can put 2 dots like that. You can put 2 dots like that. Foreground, background, you know, proximity, distance. What I felt, what we were having to do as audience in the last one, I felt like I was playing tennis match, looking between both couples, because we're so close. If we were more distant, it would have been less as a problem. So, let's see what this delivers us. Ready? Start in stillness, end in stillness. Things we could do from this point. We don't have time, but I would like us to do one last run of it this time. And I don't want to be saying go, and I don't want to be saying tell you when to enter and leave. Use your peripheral vision. Okay, that's what we didn't do, peripheral vision. Okay, you want to teach peripheral vision to a 5-year-old. So, you know, our peripheral, so this is how you teach peripheral vision. Imagine you are on the television, you're at a close-up shot, you're looking straight into camera, so you can't move out of the camera this way, you know, you're close, the camera's close. You've got to look straight into the camera. Otherwise, you look when those shifty politicians who are always looking off to the side. Yeah. Now hold your hands out in front of you, but you're not necessarily looking at them, but if you wiggle your fingers, you can see them, can't you, below your eye line. That's your peripheral vision at work. Now, slowly, without hurting anyone else, you may have to step forwards. Move your hands gradually to the side. Keep your fingers moving, but look straight into the camera. And only stop your arms at the point where they're about to go out of your vision, where if you move them any further, you won't be able to see them. I think most of us have got that is our peripheral vision. It's expansive. So when you're worrying about being together, relax. When you're worrying about being together, you don't have to look this way. You don't have to be sort of shifty. You can feel someone breathe next to you. Yeah. And this time when you do it, I really want you to worry, because In terms of your intention, think about that grandmother's footsteps. Think about the clarity of intention you had. I'm going there. So when you make your letter, one of the feedback I gave to one couple was it looked a little bit disembodied, as though they were doing the look into camera and the painting was happening over here around them somewhere. So I want you to see the record that you're making in space, make it intentional, follow it through, make it, you own it, and worry less about being together. Don't let that being together kill the joy of just what you're doing, which is the movement. And if you're together, wonderful. And if it's not quite, that's not the perfection that I'm seeking right now, especially under these conditions. It's actually you inhabiting it that matters to me more. So please, when we do it this time, play with it. Enjoy watching each other. Enjoy, make those choices about where you are next to the other couple. There were some wonderful things going on towards the end, whether planned or not. There was a fantastic stillness with one couple where the others were punctuating the center space. Think of it as a moving canvas as we do it one last time, before we finish. And let's start with the people at that end. And give me 5 seconds, and I just want to find the music. Hold on. No, there should be 2 couples, but whoever's nearest to you at that end. Okay, give me 1 second. Oh, God. Sorry. Oh, sorry. done, relaxed. If we were continuing on, and I know we're not, if we were continuing on, the next thing I'd probably get you just to have a bit more thoughtfulness and courage about is your entrances and exits. So that how you enter that space is crucial and is another choice, isn't it? But we don't have time. Look, you've been brilliant.
Can I just tell you what the online...
Oh, please. Hello, online people.
What they've said. So they have just said the development is incredible. It's great to watch from such a simple idea. There's so much expression. They're getting so much freer the more they develop their ideas. And there was one more about noticing the creative process rather than the product. It's the creativity process.
Yeah.
What did
I mean,
What did who say?
Kenya.
She just left. She said, it's been a fun evening, but I must leave.
oh. Thank you, everyone who's joined online, and thank you for your
They can't
your
see
lovely.
you there. Hang on, let me just put my camera back on. It's okay, they were looking at you that way.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who's joined online, and thank you for your wonderful comments just now. I think they've done absolutely amazingly, and I think it's. I mean, part of what I want to demonstrate is you can start with a very, very simple idea. It is just about making that trace in the space, and whether you're, and then, thinking, using other elements. You could make those phrases longer. You've got enough material between you for a whole dance if you started teaching each other. You could have bigger groups moving in unison. You could, I think there are so many different choices you could make. But I mean, what you've done in 45 minutes is amazing. And not just what you've done, but the way in which you've entered into it with real courage. And I'd say, if you want your students to enter in with the right spirit, I suppose we have to be capable of demonstrating that I'm going to make a fool of myself vulnerability ourselves, because if we don't embody it, it's hard for them. So, and when you make those gestures in space and the sounds, if you're at all feeling, this feels a bit uncomfortable, I feel stupid, it somehow actually it probably does end up being stupid because people aren't convinced. Whereas if you make that sound, whatever it is, people go with it because you deliver it with such conviction. Anyway, I'm stopped talking because I know time's of the essence. I don't know what's happening next.
That was so good. So I'm going to throw this out there. So the event was meant to finish at 7:30, and we were going to have 20 or so minutes of a Q&A. I know it's late. I know you're all in the middle of a school week. What I'm going to propose is that if you'd like to stay and have another drink and have some more chatting, then that's great. If you need to leave, then please do, because I can see that it's been quite an eventful kind of energetic evening. On your way out, if you wouldn't mind, please take a Native Creatives pencil, because they're marvellous and Helen got them made. There's a QR code on the front. Could you please just leave us some feedback about this evening, because it really helps us to plan the next one. And do follow Kenneth and Susan and myself on Twitter. And if you've got some questions that you want to throw at us, or vice versa, you want to do it in return, then please do that. And that might be a good way of starting a conversation going. We've got a Native Creatives Facebook group. Please do join it. Not a huge amount of activity happens, so if we can get some conversation going, that would be brilliant. But I'd just also like to say thanks so much to our guest speakers for coming.
Pleasure.
And thank you all for giving up your Wednesday afternoon and evening and joining us for this brilliant event and for Wine and Cheese. And I'm really pleased that we've done our first one Native Creatives Live. So thank you all very much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, live streaming.